What's going on, guys? Anthony from Chronometer Check here, and today we're going to be doing an unboxing and first impressions of a watch that I've kind of had my eye on for a really long time. I've been kind of looking for a new everyday watch that I could actually wear every day and kind of beat it up and not worry if it gets scratched or dinged and not really have to baby it too much. And I also wanted a watch that's pretty versatile and can, fill a lot of roles in my everyday life. Now, for a while, that watch was the Seiko SARB 33, and it's a great watch. I love it. I'm not getting rid of it, don't worry. But sometimes it's just a little bit too simple, a little bit too classic. Just sometimes I want a few more interesting elements on the dial or just in general to kind of be a little bit more interesting when I'm looking at the watch every single day. So I've been looking at this watch for quite some time, kind of had my eye on it. I know Hamilton's an extremely reputable brand, and there's nothing but good things to say about them generally. So I finally decided to pull the trigger, treat myself for my birthday. This is my birthday watch, the Hamilton Khaki Field Automatic in 38 millimeters. Let's get into the unboxing. I did see that Amazon did have an open box version available. It basically means that someone basically bought it, probably returned it, and we'll see what kind of condition we get in it. It should be like new condition, except they did state that the strap has been a little bit worn. It is the leather strap version, so I'm assuming someone tried it on, maybe creased the strap a bit. So let's find out together. Holy smokes. All right, you know what? Forget this. Let's just get this out of the packaging. Sometimes when I unbox a watch, I feel like a kid on Christmas. Like I can't even wait to tear the wrapping paper off, and I just make kind of a mess all over, and I'm just, whoa. Anyway, it's also always crazy seeing a watch for the first time in person. Like I know you guys are watching this video, but I've watched countless videos, read countless reviews, but seeing it in person is obviously like a whole different thing. Let's take a look. Yeah, the strap definitely has some wear. Hopefully the rest of the watch is in good condition, and it looks like it is. Oh, by the way, quick wrist check. I'm wearing my SNK 809. As you can see, I'm in a very kind of field watch militaristic mood, and this is kind of like my upgrade to this. This is kind of how I see it. So I've been wearing this one a ton. I really like it, but this one just is like a little bit something extra, a little bit more, and I think it's absolutely great. So let's take a look at that. First of all, right off the bat, you see that dial, or first of all, right off the bat, I see that sweeping second hand, which it already powered up just from me taking it out of the box. So I feel like that's a pretty good sign for the movement. Let's get rid of some of that dust in the crystal. Ooh, that's going to trigger some people with all those smudges. But this field watch dial that's relatively simple in its first appearance, but actually kind of opens up with a couple of design elements that I'll talk about in a brief second. But we do see the Arabic numerals across the dial. And we even do have a 24-hour track for you military time lovers out there, running on the inner circle of the dial. Now the dial itself, another thing that's kind of like an interesting element, you see it's not just like a flat black dial. There's actually a dial, sort of a sub-dial within the outer dial, and both of them kind of run on their own. And you could see the outer dial has kind of like a subtle texturing to it with a bunch of smaller rings inside, which makes it very, very dynamic as it kind of feeds into the light, reflects off the light, and it's really, really interesting to look at dial. Another thing that really fascinates me is this red painted second hand, which just looks really, really good. Nice accent to an otherwise relatively monochromatic and kind of simple and plain color scheme watch. So I always love when watches do that, kind of a pop of color. And just to tip it off a little bit, and we do have some minute markers going along the outer edge of the dial to, again, it just kind of breaks up the texture, right? Like there's a bunch of different textures, sizes, etc. Even fonts. The Hamilton font is in a different font than Khaki Automatic at the bottom. There's a lot of different elements going on, and I think that's what makes it so dynamic and interesting. And let me tell you guys, this definitely looks better in person than I would have ever thought. I've heard great things. I've done lots of research, but it looks absolutely fantastic. And I think one of the things that has a lot to do with that is the case. The finishing on the case itself looks really good. Look at that brushed finish on the top, which transitions to the polished finish on the outer bezel. Originally, the Hamilton Khaki was designed as a military watch. Now this means for the military, generally, they were specified to be all either satin finish or all brushed, just like the SNK 809 over here. It's all as this is kind of like flat satin finish, and the reason for that is so it doesn't reflect the light as much to kind of like reveal your position to your enemies. So the traditional Hamilton khakis that were made for the military, and yeah, so they did not have this nice polished bezel. But as we kind of progress into a more civilian watch, right? This is more for like everyday wear. It's a little bit dressy. It's a watch that you could wear. Yeah, I guess I could wear it in battle. And by battle, I mean when I'm playing Call of Duty Cold War. But I could also wear it, you know, you could also wear it kind of dressed up with an exotic leather strap, perhaps. And that bezel definitely helps kind of feed this into a more everyday, versatile piece. Another thing I absolutely love about this watch is the crown. Now, it's a signed crown with an H for, you guessed it, have a nice day. Now, it's for Hamilton, and I just really like the crown. It's like, it definitely protrudes out a bit. It's definitely a sizable crown, but I always like that because it's just so easy to operate. Now, this watch does have hacking and hand winding, so let's give that winding a shot. Nice and smooth. It doesn't feel gritty at all. It feels very, very easy and kind of satisfying to operate. I like it a lot. Let's actually try setting the time, pulling it out 2 clicks. Again, very easy and satisfying. Good actuation, like good amount of the hands shifting per each turn, so not bad. And let's just move this out of the way past 3 o'clock so we don't break the date mechanism. Be careful with that, guys. Don't change the date between 9 and 3 o'clock. This is usually for cheaper movements, so for this movement, it would probably be fine, but just out of habit, I try to not do it, even on my watches with better movement. So pull out the crown, and ooh, nice and snappy. Beautiful. So yeah, really satisfying click. This is an H10 movement. So let's actually take a look at the movement in the back. This is an H10 movement, which is very, very impressive as it has a 70-hour power reserve. So that's basically an entire weekend, guys. You know, you take this watch off on a Friday, you pick it up again for work or your regular scheduled work day on, you know, Monday after a weekend of doing whatever, wearing a dive watch, whatever. You're back on this, and guess what? It's still running. So that's really, really awesome. Now we see it does have a display case back. Honestly, the movement is pretty well decorated, not that bad. I actually really enjoy it. Now this movement is kind of replacing, in their older khaki models, replacing the ETA 2824 Swiss movement, as is this. This is a Swiss movement, but kind of a little bit more of a higher end Swiss movement, but that only had a 40-ish hour power reserve because it did beat a lot faster at 28,000 beats per hour. Now this one they kind of toned it down a little bit to only beat at 21,600 beats per hour. But what that does is it allows it to run for a lot longer to reach those high power reserve of 70 hours. And yeah, I think this is an absolutely cracking watch. I mean, I really can't wait to just throw this on every single 20mm strap that I have. And we'll get into the dimensions in a second, but well, I can already tell I'm going to love the heck out of this thing. It does have a sapphire crystal that is doing a really good job of kind of not getting, I mean, it's obviously reflective. It's not completely anti-reflective, but it definitely has some properties, some anti-reflective coating. I don't know if it's at the top or at the bottom, or maybe it's double. And the crystal has a slight kind of dome to it. I don't really know if you'll be able to see that on the camera, but it makes the watch very interesting. It's not kind of high domed, so it doesn't sit tall over the crystal, but it just looks really fantastic. This looks like, oh, man, my first Hamilton. I could tell you now, it's not going to be my last based on this. This is absolutely blowing me away. So let's throw it on the wrist and take a look at some of the dimensions. Okay, the first thing I noticed is that this strap is not comfortable off the bat. Not a very soft and supple strap. It'll probably break in just fine. It doesn't feel like a poor quality strap. It just feels rather somewhat thick and substantial. It does taper down a little bit, but honestly, I don't really plan on wearing it on this strap. I have like a million other straps that I would rather wear this on. And I'm sure I'll go over those strap choices in a little bit more in depth in the full video. But as far as dimensions, I went for the 38mm variant. I just think it works a little bit better for my 7-inch wrist as an everyday watch. There is a 42mm variant that's obviously a little bit bigger. It's better for you with bigger wrists, or if you just prefer a larger watch. Now, I tend to prefer kind of small to mid-size watches, even though I don't really have the smallest of wrists, but I just think I just love that kind of classic traditional feel. And it's just my preference. There's nothing really wrong with either one. If you want the 42 millimeter, it's not going to look bad on most wrist sizes unless you have really small wrists. So keep that in mind, kind of personal preference. I like 38 millimeters, like my sweet spot. And that was one of the things that I loved about the SARP 33 so much, was the sizing. A couple of other dimensions to take a look at. It has a lug-to-lug length of about 45.5 millimeters, so that's relatively compact, not very large, so it won't, kind of overhang on most people's wrists. Again, this is the 38 millimeter variant, a bit smaller. The 42 millimeter, I believe, does have also a slightly larger lug-to-lug. And another thing that really surprised me about this watch is actually how thin it is. It's only 11 millimeters thick, which I was not expecting, so I'm really kind of liking that. I love thin watches, and again, this is even thinner than the SARP 33, which is like a dress watch, so that's kind of amazing. So yeah, guys, my new Hamilton Khaki Field Automatic. I'm really pleased with it. Definitely going to be getting a lot of wrist time, and after I wear it for a bit, I'll be sure to give you guys a full in-depth review of my thoughts. Of course, I want to get it on the wrist a bit so I can actually get some real-world experience with it. If you did enjoy this video, I'd appreciate if you would take a moment to drop a like. It really kind of helps me grow as a channel, kind of feeds the search algorithm, as well as feel free to subscribe if you like more reviews like this, as well as to see the full review of the Hamilton Khaki. I'll also post a link to the blog, Instagram, as well as the Facebook. Yeah, I just dropped my tripod, so what? The blog, Instagram, and the Affordable Mechanical Watches Facebook group. Feel free to join. We are almost 12,000 members strong and growing. So yeah, guys, I will be sure to hold the watch a lot steadier in the full review. Thanks for watching.